All right. I am so honored to introduce our next guest. She is an innovator. She is an author. She is a community organizer, a media producer, an archivist, a curator, and an educator. This woman does it all, and she is inclusive. She has included me in her circle. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Marta Diaz.
Thank you, Dolores. You have been my rock, because without her, I wouldn't be able to be here. And so thank you, and everyone at OSA. And Sugar T, where are you? Yes! Reppin' for us. Oh my God. I mean, this is church. This is workout. You know, you get all the elements of hip hop with Sugar T. Woo! Well, we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, so I'm just gonna jump in and introduce the rest of our guests, because we want to be able to tell you a little bit about hip hop education and how it's transforming our young people's lives and our community. So let's start with Marlon Richardson, aka Unlearn the World. Please just step up and sit down. Marlon is the MC, producer, educator, and the education director of Hip Hop for Change. Next up, Kev Choice. He is a musician, composer, activist, and educator. Yes, come through. Russell Gatwood. Russ, where are you? Yeah, DJ Big Russ, from the world famous show. It's just such an honor to be with these legends, by the way. And Dolores, can you please join us? Thank you. And you all know she's the queen of OSA. So, but I don't know, I don't know how many times you're gonna get the opportunity to see people like this in person. And so soak it in, and let's just for a moment think about where hip hop started in the Bronx, in a dilapidated, war-stricken looking Bronx, where the kids played in rubble, where the kids took junk mattresses, linoleum floor to use as their dance floor. They used the trains as canvases because there were no arts programs, there were no music programs. New York was bankrupt. The politicians, I'm respecting no cussing, don't. But this is where hip hop came from. And they were teenagers. They were 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And, I said teenagers, but yeah, they were children. And they decided not to give up. They decided to turn junk into art, and now 50 years later, we're a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We're giving jobs to people. We're building communities. We're building schools. We're building houses. We're doing it all. And most importantly, we have educators that are entering the workforce, and we're transforming schools. So let's begin with the first question. How did you get into hip hop? And when you do that, could you please just drop some songs and drop some names if you can. Let's start with you, Marlon.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Nope. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like a recovering theater kid, so you project, right? Where are my theater teachers? Anybody think theater teachers? There we go. Y'all saved my life. Y'all don't even understand. Hip hop. I didn't get into hip hop. Hip hop got into me. I'm gonna just say. I think most of the people on this panel can share that sentiment, right? For me, I grew up in a very unique circumstance. So my parents are from the Dominican Republic. I was born and raised in Washington Heights, Manhattan, New York City, right across from the South Bronx. The woman who raised me was white and Jewish from the age of 0 to 13. So I spent a good portion of my formative years being in spaces where I'm the only black kid I know and I see. it caused me to do a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-awareness, trying to figure out who I am in this world that is treating me like an alien in one way or another, right? But I'm acting in this world as a stranger, right? That happens until you see Rakim on some music video show, and you see somebody who looks like you exude confidence. And that was kind of my foray into hip hop. My mother bought me a rap CD or rap tape, Walkmans. Who remembers Walkmans? Right? The song Eric B. and Rakim. My older brother's name is Eric, so it's the only reason I put the song on, and it changed my world. And that made me a hip hop head. So from age 10, I'm literally rapping, freestyling to make sense of this unique upbringing, to make sense of this world that is kind of juxtaposed, this world of some level of privilege that I know people who look like me don't have access to, right? But still being in the neighborhood where all the grit and the grind happen. So this kind of dual consciousness.
Appreciation for your support.
So this kind of dual consciousness, like W.E.B. Du Bois says, is really what put me forward into the world of hip hop. And then by the time I'm 13, the album Illmatic comes out. And the song The World Is Yours comes out, and he says, writing in my book of rhymes, all the words past the margin. That is the first metaphor that I fully understood on a multiple dimensional level. And then literally the next day, I go and I buy a rhyme book from Woolworth. Who remembers Woolworth? We always have. You know what I'm saying? From Woolworth, which is equivalent to CVS or Walgreens, I buy a notebook, a Mead composition notebook to start writing my rhymes down. And that gives the foyer into what I now know as my life involved in this culture, right? Throughout high school, I'm freestyling, doing rap battles. I'm interning for record labels like Bad Boy, Loud Records. I'm working with artists like Big Pun. I'm seeing some of my heroes. I'm in A&R offices listening to beats that become multi-platinum singles. I'm putting up posters in all the streets of New York City, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, posters of my favorite rappers, Mobb Deep, Nas, all these different people. I'm of this culture. Right? I didn't have to look at TV or SoundCloud or any. Hip hop was literally all over. My brothers were breakdancing in clubs. My cousins were DJs. That's how I even learned Nas, because my cousin had the record spinning on vinyl. And I'm like, what is this human nature? It ain't hard to tell sample. I know Michael Jackson, right? So I'm familiarizing myself with all of this. And by the time I'm in college, I'm going on tour nationally with artists like Killer Mike, Dead Prez, you know, some of my underground heroes, you know, like I'm literally living the dream that I saw performed all over New York City and on TV, and the people who the world is revering as superheroes are people I saw on street corners ciphering. Right? So I understand this not only from the music industry perspective, but from the cultural phenomenon that it's grown to be, right? But now as a hip hop educator, also many years later, I understand fully the transformative nature of this culture and its ability to literally allow young people, especially marginalized young people, to think and speak their way into a new reality that they haven't imagined for themselves. And that's something that I am a testament of, that is something I am a proof of, and it is my social responsibility to provide that opportunity for young people like themselves. So I start most of my classes by letting kids know, you all are the age of the kids who started the most predominant form of youth self-expression in the 20th and 21st century, right? So for us to now be in a space where we have these conversations and we're making inroads into the institutions of education and corporate finance and politics and all of that is just kind of a full circle moment. We're on the 50th year of this culture, and a party in the Bronx now got us in Harvard, now got us in Columbia, now got us on TV. You can't deny the evolutionary power of this culture. So that's my story.
This is my house, so I'm gonna let you be.
Well, first of all, shout out to Dead Prez.
Yes.
Love Dead Prez. My name is Russell Gatewood, Big Russ. I probably am the only person here on this panel that is older than hip hop. And when it hit me, I'm a rare San Francisco native, first of all. And to the 3 or 4 San Francisco natives. When hip hop came west, it hit us like the waves at Ocean Beach. it didn't trickle. When it came, we all were like, oh my God, what is this? And we instantly gravitated towards it. And people ask me, I've been DJing for decades. I have no rhyme skills. It's limited. Maybe Mary Had a Little Lamb, maybe. But I have no hip hop rhyming skills. But the music just grabbed me in a way that, okay, this is my direction. And people ask me all the time, because I am a DJ, hey, what's your top 5 songs? What's your top 5 MCs? I have mine, but they change all the time. And my man, first of all, shout out DJ CJ, the almighty DJ CJ Flash. He and I go back and forth. He says, I can't do a top 5, I'll never do a top 5. But I always have mine. And I argue with people all the time. And the song that hit me first was a song called Freedom by Grandmaster Flash. That song grabbed me in a way where I learned the lyrics to that song, and it helped me learn my studies as well. Exactly. See, that's why that guy is over there. That's why he is good. So I learned every word of this song, whereas before hip hop, aside from church hymns, I had trouble with my studies, learning and memorizing things and finding out what these words mean to me. What these words mean to me. And that was, hip hop was it led me into education. Hip hop led me into communication skills. Hip hop led me in being confident as a young man growing up in a big city, to be in a space with black, brown, purple, polka dot people, and being very confident in who I am and what I like. And maybe you may like that. And we can now have a conversation, whereas before, we couldn't. The schoolyard was separated, but now we are all together talking about, did you hear this? Have you seen these people? And hip hop has followed me and it just, everywhere I turn is hip hop. And I agree with this brother as far as Madison Avenue has chased hip hop and is now kind of homogenized in some ways, but it's also given life to people who actually had no path before. And I'm grateful now with CJ Flash, under the tutelage of Dr. Dolores, that we're actually able to teach a DJ elective class here on campus, where we can teach the kids the tools of the turntable, of the mixer, and what the DJ actually can bring to the community, and how important the DJ is to the roots of hip hop culture. And I'm honored to be part of this celebration today.
So the same question. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kev Choice. I grew up here in Oakland, California, and how I got into hip hop really was just as that wave he was talking about when hip hop hit the West Coast. I feel like we were really engulfed in the culture as youth. I was trying to emulate my uncles and my cousins who were trying to be Run DMC, and then my friends. We were listening to that Rakim record, I Ain't No Joke. That really, to me, was the first time I looked at like hip hop as such a serious art form. Like Rakim was so serious when he was spitting that rap, even the title, I Ain't No Joke. And it got me into taking poems that I would write, like I was already writing poems, and then trying to put it in a rap format, like writing it in bars, like 16 bars. And then during that time also, hip hop in the Bay Area was thriving with many different artists. I went to junior high, Westlake Junior High School, down the block with people like the Loonies, people like the Who Riders, the Delinquents, just people from all over Oakland who were we was rapping every time we was on a bus. There was people doing graffiti everywhere, from BART trains to AC Transit to all over the city. And also me being a musician, studying piano at the age of 11, trying to emulate the things that I heard in the songs, like playing the popular songs for my friends, while I was practicing classical, but also having a good enough ear to play every song that was on the radio, and just thrilling people because I could play the keyboard lick from a R&B song or from a Houdini song or an R&B song, and just showing showing the musical elements of hip hop, But also just really just getting engulfed in the culture in high school. I went to Skyline High School here in Oakland with people like Hieroglyphics, Souls of Mischief, Casual, Pep Love, and I mean, these cats were putting out albums in high school. They were high school students putting out albums that changed the world. You know, 93 Till, we're celebrating the 30th year of that, which is one of the most, greatest hip hop albums ever created from Oakland youth who were just really just kids who just hung out together and just were so dedicated to the craft. Like we wanted to also prove that West Coast artists and Oakland artists could be looked at the level of East Coast artists. Because for a lot of times they kind of looked at, West Coast like, oh, that's not real hip hop, or, we emulated Short, we emulated 40 and The Click and all of those legends. Give it up one more time for Sugar T, because that was actually a master class of hip hop education, of energy, of getting people involved, of accountability, of authenticity, of just also just cultural history. So one more time for Sugar T, who I emulated in high schools, in junior high school, seeing those records being put out. But yeah, I got into hip hop because it was around me and my community. It was around my friend group, my peer group. We really wanted to we were students of the music. We dug for vinyl, we shot for records, we studied samples on the back of every album, and we really wanted to prove that we could be on the level of artists on the East Coast and just speak the voice of Oakland youth at that time.
Good morning. Speaking from the dance perspective, my name is David Johnson. Those were my kids that were up here. I grew up here in Oakland, particularly right up the street, 40th and Webster, and being able to see the evolution. And when we talk about dance, and we talk about education, I'll talk about my influences first. I actually started by the videos back in the day, the soul beats, the MTV when it was worth watching, and back in the day when MCs had dancers in the background. And at the time, we didn't have OSA. And we had the People Center, we had Malonga Center, at the time it was Alice. And that was my influence, but also the club scene as well. And particularly with hip hop and hip hop dance culture during that time, a lot of people will say, well, b-boying and b-girling brought them in. But it was the evolution and people like Buddha Stretch, who in New York in the Elite Force, that inspired me, and watching them in videos and really taking that from the clubs into behind artists like Michael Jackson or Mariah Carey, and speaking out during that time when dancers weren't getting paid anything. So I'll keep it short, but as we talk about pathways and dance education, and what I wanted to bring with my students, giving them the tools of not just surviving in a game that can be a hustle, but also having the tools to have longevity. And also understanding that when you walk out of a room, whether it be an audition, whether it be a cypher or a circle, that you still maintain yourself, because it can be a killer, itself, it can be killer. So understanding what entrepreneurship looks like, going back to the culture itself, but staying authentic as well.
I guess I had to talk about me, this monkey. Remember that? Okay. So I got into hip hop as a young program director for a local station here called Soul Beat Television. And one thing that I noticed from looking at other outlets, nobody was playing rap music, nobody. So I started programming heavily rap music into the Bay Area. And then we gained a station in Los Angeles, and then we gained a station in New York, and then we gained a station in Detroit, and then we took over Sonoma County. And what that did for us, that opened up a pathway for me to have partnership with Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin and all these people who were looking for an outlet. And I just loved it. I loved how the music matched with the rhymes. I loved the syncopation. I loved the thought pattern behind it. I loved the mixing and the scratching. And I can rap. I can get down on the ones and twos, okay? So this is a culture that not only came from nothing, but has sustained for 50 years, and we're not done yet. All these educators up here are also producers, they're also performers, and now they're teaching the youth how to not only do it, but to do it to where it matters. Because when I came up, rap didn't hurt nobody, it didn't shoot nobody, it didn't cuss nobody out, it didn't kill nobody. It was a positive vibe. It was a party vibe. It was a romantic vibe. And we're bringing that back. We're bringing that thought pattern back to ask our kids, if you could write a rhyme to change somebody's life, what would that sound like? And that's why I'm excited about what's happening here at OSA, and I'm grateful for the admin that's allowing us to do this, because we're able to change lives through something that's natural and organic. And it makes a difference when they could put beats and rhymes together. It makes a difference when they can think about changing a life by just spitting a few rhymes on a mic. It makes a huge difference when they can look at the pioneers and say, okay, if Kev Choice can do it, because he's a classical pianist. And now he's a classical hip-hop pianist. So he plays hip-hop with the San Francisco Orchestra. He got them hip-hopping. So they're looking at people like that and saying, here are avenues and ways that I can get in that I never imagined. It's growing, it ain't going nowhere, and OSA is an innovator of bringing it to the babies.
Yes. Well, two things. I got into hip hop as a first generation Colombian American. I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. Anyone from Paterson? And I didn't have family members at all. And so hip hop became my surrogate family, the culture, the community. And so for a lot of young people who are either refugees and new immigrants, this culture is the entry point to connecting, to belonging. And so that's what it did for me, and I dedicated my entire life to making sure others feel the same. I want to respectfully disagree with you, Dolores, on one thing. Hip-hop came from something. It came from struggle. It came from our ancestors who fought for freedom so that we can do this, so that we can be here and express ourselves and not be contained, like Sugar T said, I don't want to be put in a box. No, we are interdisciplinary. We are multi-talented. We have multiple skills. And so out of my 5 questions, I'm going to the last one.
And when I say nothing, I mean record industry people did not
yes.
build.
No, we
I
built,
don't
we built,
what she's talking about.
yeah.
I'm talking about they didn't need the industry to make this a gigantic thing
Yes,
that it is.
yes, and that you are correct. Yes, we built our own industry.
Yeah.
That's right. That is true. So the last question is, how is hip hop intersectional, and why should it be its own CTE track?
I mean, we established 5 elements and 4 principles as community agreements for how we held our space, right? It's one of the best practices of most educators to establish community agreements in your classrooms or as part of school culture. Marginalized kids were doing this by themselves for parties, right? Saying you come in peace or you leave in pieces, right? Peace, love, unity, having fun. Those were the community agreements of the jam. Before it was a genre of music, it was a party in the Bronx for young people with a unique style of DJing, right? MCs getting on the microphone to incorporate the crowd into the performance that was then called a routine. This set the basis for what now becomes rap songs, right? It was a performance. There were kids dancing to the breaks of records, which is why they're called break dancers, right? B-boys and B-girls, and you didn't even have to dance to be considered a B-boy or B-girl, because by attending the party, you were a B-boy or B-girl. We had our own slang, we had our own fashion, because we were historically marginalized from everything else. Poverty kept us away from certain things. Lack of arts programming in our schools kept us away from certain things. Not being able to wear John Travolta disco suits kept us away from those nightclubs and those bars in the downtown area. Being underage kept us a lot away from a lot of spaces. So we created our own space. We created our own disciplines. We created 5 elements, 4 of them being expressive. Right? The 5th element being knowledge. You're learning about who you are through accessing these different forms of creativity. Right? But further to that, you need knowledge in order to experience them. You need knowledge of music to be a DJ. You need knowledge, but further than that, not only are you having knowledge, but you're remixing everything. Right? Grandmaster Caz, part of the Cold Crush, right, said hip-hop did not invent anything, it reinvented everything. By being an MC, you're taking autonomy over language. You are using poetic tools that are taught in English class. With the unbeknownst to you, you were creating metaphors, similes, personification to empower yourself and to make sense of your surroundings. As a DJ, you have kinesthetic knowledge. You have to understand, right? We innovated the relationship between music and technology. Technology, as it starts to come from the 80s, starts to replicate whatever DJs in the Bronx were doing. Right, with the sampler, with taking old songs and remixing them, throwing new beats on them. This is innovative stuff that wasn't happening anywhere else on the planet Earth except for New York City and urban communities around the entire country, right? So like I guess the challenge for us as hip hop educators often, especially running a nonprofit, right? I'm an education director for a nonprofit. We rely on grants, monthly donorship, all of that, but we have to talk that talk. We have to quantify the efficacy of something that we know historically to be right for a white supremacist foundational conglomerate in order to prove ourselves worthy of getting money. Right? Even though we know throughout the course of our history that this shows time and again that not only if this is taught, not only is it culturally responsive, it is culturally affirming. Right? Hip hop asks nothing of you but to come as your most authentic and amplified self and be celebrated in that space. Right? And I think part of the issues that we're confronting presently is that a lot of kids, it's cool not to care anymore. Right? I'm sure all of us as teachers and educators, you see that in your classroom, kids who you can see the spark going on, but they're hesitant because they don't want to be singled out in their social environment. It's cool not to care. We have to make it cool to care again. Right? We have to make it cool to care about ourselves, about the environment, about the communities that we're from, and we're using all of these expressive disciplines to do so, right? But it's just a quantification that a lot of us are having struggles with, just trying to be able to explain this in a way that meets Common Core standards and yada yada, like all the things that, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, I know this kid is having trouble at home. I know when he's here for 2 hours making beats, that regulates him. That's all I need to know about the effective power of this. Why do I have to exclude this language in a grant? Right? Like it's one of the most frustrating things ever, but it's something that now, because it's such a movement, hip hop education is such a movement, we're getting those resources, right? People like Martha Diaz, people like Dr. Thompson, all of us on this panel, all of you all as educators, you're starting to recognize the value, the intrinsic value of having hip hop in your educational practices, right? Whether it's a writing prompt or developing a whole rap song or developing a whole theater play with rap inside the theater piece. We're learning that it is affecting the way that kids are learning. It's a multi-form, it's a multifaceted form of creativity that allows the brain to think in different ways, right? Thinking about the 5 swords of intelligence. Who can,
Well, we got to keep it moving.
Yeah, okay, we got to keep it going.
Because we won't get to David if we keep going.
So I'm going to keep it brief. One of my friends, her name is Yo-Yo. She teaches hip-hop English, and we travel together with the Black College Expo. And when I was a kid that had like learning disabilities, right? But if you put some music on, something just clicked. And watching her teach kids how to retain through hip-hop, it grabbed me. Because at this point in our lives, we have to learn how to reimagine how education is rolled out, and it needs to be equitable to where it gives access to how you need to have it, when you need to have it, and from whom you need to have it from. So when we start talking about hip hop and education, for me, it's being able to put it in the academic classroom. And when I started doing the research, I found a hip hop math teacher. And of course, I went to my math teacher and said, Dolores, I can't rap. And I was like, I'm not asking you. But let's just look at it. Let's look at the research. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at how many kids have been able to ascertain what they could not ascertain before. But with hip hop, they're now mastering. So that's the next level. What I'm looking at is bringing it into the academic classroom and maybe teaching the teachers how to rap.
So, I didn't know that I had kinesthetic knowledge, so thank you for letting me know that. Hip-hop is a culture. I want everybody here to understand that hip-hop is a culture. It is not a genre, it is not a scene, it is a culture. It is a culture that permeates everything that we do as citizens of this generation, as parents, as sons and daughters, as consumers, And it is our responsibility to show these young scholars that you can use hip hop as a pathway, that there is a career on the other side of this microphone. Your path does not limit you to being a rapper, to being an MC. You can be a publicist.
Yes.
You can be a turntablist, like my man over here. You can be a writer. You can be in marketing, which is where I got my education in marketing, all through hip hop. It was really important that in our classroom that we're able to touch kids that we see that are on the spectrum, that they are now focused on this spinning piece of 12-inch vinyl. They're focused on it for 45 minutes. We have their full attention, and they are right there. They are in it. And it's all because of this living, breathing organism that is hip hop. And we are so proud that we can be part of it and can teach it to other people.
Yeah, just speaking on the CTE part, because that's something that, as being a teacher here at OSA and having to take CTE certification and going through that whole process and seeing how it's relevant to our students in the class. I think the 3 words to me is, number 1, relevance. Hip hop is the most relevant, like the brother said, culture. And if we want our students to be seen in their classroom, if we want them to feel connected in the classroom, and also just how hip hop is a teacher. Hip hop taught me about all type of different genres. Hip hop taught me about English. Hip hop motivated me to even come to school, to be around my friends, and to connect in classroom. I feel like one of the best assignments I was ever given was a high school English class where the teacher allowed us to take Canterbury Tales and recreate it in a new way. Like a friend of mine who was failing this class, who was not going to graduate if he didn't do this assignment, sampled some old music from that period, the medieval period, and I put a rhyme to it, I put a rap to it, and we performed it in front of our classroom. This is an English class, and this motivated a student who never ever came to class, who was failing almost all of his other assignments, to start to work on this assignment in class. Collaboration. Hip hop is so collaborative. We're talking about hip hop. We're talking about MCs, DJs, dancers, artists, theater, spoken word, speaking. So many different art forms are involved in hip hop creation. So how can we bring that into the classroom? I would have studied engineering or mathematics if I wasn't a piano performance major. So music gives us a mind to understand mathematics. And how do we relate hip hop? Like learning 16 bars or learning rhythms is really mathematic if you think about it. And how do we even bring that into the mathematics spectrum? Or if we talk about science or science and knowledge and wisdom, it's something that hip hop foundational teachers taught us to seek, like learning more about science, learning more about philosophy. Hip hop is also a philosophy. So these are so many different ways that we can bring hip hop not into just a music class, but into academic classes. I'm actually teaching a course right now at Santa Clara University, which is called Hip Hop Production Lab and Analysis, which is analyzing all of the styles and techniques of hip hop producers from back in the Sugar Hill Gang all the way up to Kendrick Lamar, and studying the elements of their production, studying the elements of their influences, and also giving the students opportunity to recreate that. So hip hop is now in the academic world, as we said, talking about this at Harvard, how we have Ninth Wonder teaching in North Carolina, how we have Lupe Fiasco at MIT. So hip hop is becoming an academic way of expression. So we must find a way to do that, especially with our younger student, because it allows them to be seen, it gives them voice and connection, and also just makes them feel connected in what they're learning. So.
I'll just speak to what I'm doing with the kids in relation to CTE and the objective and the goals. And when I came here in 2021, I started out going off of what I wasn't seeing in dance particularly, and how dance particularly was presented through Eurocentric eyes and Eurocentric art forms. And I saw, from my experience, whether it be in hip hop, whether it be in club styles, whether it just be industry stuff, how it was damaging in many, many, many ways. And what I try to do with my students is expose them to foundation work. So we start off with who is Cool Herc. From Cool Herc, how did it start? What brought people together? And understanding that hip hop is not choreography, that it's party dancing. And again, like I mentioned, the Elite Force before earlier in Stretch and Link, how did that transition happen between breaking and going into the Elite Force and what they brought to the culture of hip hop dance and ciphers, etc. So what I try to do with my kids is first start with groundwork and what that groundwork looks like, whether we're playing around with music, and I tell them all the time, make the music first, technique second, choreography last. And we sort of play with that, with rhythms, whether it's instrumental. And going back to CTE, and the importance of it is, okay, I know someone said this earlier on the panel, there's so much that you can do with it, and particularly with dance that it's not, you can pull from where you started, but also taking it to whether if you're working with an artist, movement coaching, because not all artists are dancers. So what does movement coaching and movement styling look like? I had one of the students up here earlier, what I did with them, because they were more advanced, that was actually, I want to credit Maya and Jayla Brown, who choreographed that last piece, but also understanding what does discipline look like within all of this. Maya Fleming, I have to acknowledge, won a Grammy in the Alphabet Rockers. So, really understanding what does discipline look like, particularly in this culture and how it came from one part to the other, but also in connection with dance, how you can use this on many, many levels. And you're not just limiting to just one thing, whether it's education, whether it's performing, even singing. So yeah, that's my goal with my kids and my students, or any space that I'm in.
Thank you. Woo. And by the way, did you mention that hip hop breaking is going to be in the Olympics? Yes, 2024 in LA. It is now a new category. And so that's how far we've come with hip hop dance. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but I have some few thoughts to add to the conversation. So yes, CTE is, or hip hop is, an interdisciplinary CTE pathway. Why? Because not only is it in arts, media, and entertainment, but it's also in business and technology, in health. Is horticulture a pathway, or agriculture? Agriculture. We're doing it all. We have the 10th element of hip hop is health and wellness, and we're teaching people how to grow their own food. But it is important that you know that there are schools that have entire curriculum, the entire school, all disciplines incorporate hip hop into the classroom. These are schools like the High School for Recording Arts in St. Paul, Minnesota, View Park High School in Los Angeles, Mount Haven in the Bronx, and these are just 3 out of dozens, and they're popping up all over the world. This isn't new. I've been working with hip hop education for over 20 years. I was the first one to document the impact with a research report, which is so necessary for the grantors, right? They need that research. But now we're developing our own standards with Music Will, who's one of our partners. We have our own museums. We have 3 museums popped up in 2019. The Universal Hip Hop Museum in the Bronx, the Museum of Graffiti in Miami, and the South African Hip Hop Museum. Since then, there are numerous museums that are being formed all over the world. And career pathways, well, I've only worked in hip hop my entire life. I don't care to work in any other pathway or field, and so I tell young people you can do anything you want in hip hop culture. And so that, and the final thing is, thank God for Allison Frenzel, who helped us create the hip hop education and equity. Stand up, Allison, stand up, we're gonna put you on the spot. Yes, because she understood the value of having a great grant to give to teachers in schools so that if you want to bring hip hop into your classroom, you have this funding so you can hire any one of us here or any one of the thousands of teaching artists and experts around the world to come into your classroom virtually or in person to help you develop curriculum, to help you develop assemblies, like Sugar T could definitely rock an assembly, and internships, pre-apprenticeship programs, resources, anything. And now it is going to be open to the entire AME, right? AME field? No?
What?
The grant?
The grant program's small.
Please, just tell us a little bit.
So thanks to Martha, like 3 years ago, we established the Hip Hop Education and Equity Initiative, which was originally for arts, media, and entertainment pathways only. This year we're expanding to education pathways. And it's a small grant program, and it's not actually going to be a public RFP, but it will be an invite program for hip hop educators for this next year. And then the following year, it will most likely be a public grant program. So we're still in our pilot phases, but really the point of this program is to bring experts from the field to partner with teachers to make sure students have an authentic experience with hip hop education. So.
Thank you. And I know that with this, it will professionalize the field. Other states will also get on the bandwagon. And so if you're interested, please join us this afternoon. We have a session that's going to talk more about it. You'll meet some of the grantees. And thank you very much for your patience. And thank you, Ashley, for everything. Yay! And thank you to the panelists. Round of applause. Yay!
Thank you, Martha Diaz. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to CJ Flash. And thank you to you. We have an amazing day planned for you. There are AME ambassadors stationed at lots of different strategic locations throughout the school to help you find your sessions. But thank you for being here. Thank you for celebrating hip hop education. And go forth. We hope you have a wonderful day. And I can't say enough about the sessions we're running today. They are all amazing. And I'll see you back here for our Pixar panel at the end of the day. So have a great one.